really don't expect anyone to show up to this stream. It's 11:30 Mountain. I literally just got back to Colorado from DC. So I flew out to DC on Saturday and I just got back and I'm like so super dehydrated. And I know the worst thing to do is probably drink Diet Mountain Dew because, caffeine dehydrates you further. Yeah, I care. I'll have some water after this. But I wanted to give some contemporaneous thoughts on after being there, and if anyone shows up, to answer any questions and some of the manufactured drama is the way I will put it by thoroughly miserable people within the Libertarian Party. Now, that doesn't mean all critics are that way. I think you all know the type I am referring to. So if I'm not referring to you, don't get butthurt. So the rally was fantastic. Now, you wouldn't know that by reading some comments from mostly people who were not there. Obviously, there were a lot of speakers. I didn't have the opportunity to hear them all. I did try to listen to a great many of them, and everyone was exactly on point. People have asked how many people are there. I'm not good at estimating numbers, but when you hear people on Facebook go, oh, there were 500 people there. No, they're full of crap. Maybe my estimate is high. I expect we'll hear an estimate from the Park Service. Maybe not. At its peak, I would guess about 5,000 people there. That became a lot more obvious. I did a live stream of the march to the White House where everyone finally got together in one place and walked. The problem with that area is it's so big. So there was a core group of people clustered around the stage, but what you couldn't see from the videos was everyone on the sides. And then the Lincoln Memorial was behind it, and the steps were full of people, which is really hard to see on the videos. But there were quite a few people there, and libertarians from all over the country. It was super fantastic. And I got asked to attend the Oregon convention. So the vice chair from Oregon was there, which was wonderful. That from so many places, I met people from Minnesota, from Kansas. I mean, they were everywhere. But I would say the majority of the crowd was the anti-war left. The anti-war left that has pretty much died. It is nice to see it revived. I find it so ironic that all the people who are screaming, you guys, the new LNC's too in bed with the right. And the first huge event we do is pairing with the left. And they're like, oh, well, not that way. Not that way. That let me know right then that which I should have known from the beginning. I'm just way too trusting that we're not dealing with people of good faith. Not dealing with good people of good faith. Not saying there is not a handful of good faith critics. So again, if I'm not referring to you, don't get butthurt. But the majority of the crowd there, I would say, were more left. And the comment I kept getting in talking with these people was, we never knew the libertarians were anti-war. Perceptions were changed today. Now, you wouldn't know this from some sourpuss libertarians, but it was phenomenally fantastic. I do want to address some of the, if you can even call it, critiques. So apparently some people, I swear they're getting moist over the fact that they were able to pick out a screenshot where Angela was on stage. And unless you were there, it's really hard to envision the stage setup. I doubt with the way, because the speakers were facing the entire direction that the people speaking even knew stuff was going on behind them. Because I said there were people behind and in front. So out of a crowd of about 5,000, 3 people were carrying a Russian flag. And of course, that's all the sourpusses want to concentrate on. And when you're there to be disruptive and to troll, what you do is you try to get in the camera shots. Like when I laugh at like baseball games and the person gets right behind the camera shot with the huge birds aren't real sign. That's what people try to do. So in the beginning of the rally, those people got in the back with the camera shot. So people who ultimately do not wish the best for the LP right now have decided that you're just going to share this screenshot everywhere and paint it as if Angela was somehow responsible for 3 people out of a crowd of thousands getting in a camera shot with a Russian flag. I am sorry. That is completely bad faith. Now, some people go, oh, come on, be fair. That screenshot is not good optics. Well, who's sharing it? It's you guys. It's you guys that are creating the bad optics. It's you guys who decided that that's what you're going to share. Do you think most of the people that were there even noticed? No. Who's creating the bad optics? It's you. That is what is just such bad faith. And what happened? Be honest, Pinocchio. What happened is that once other people at the rally saw that was happening, first, from what I was told, because I wasn't in back of the stage, security came and asked them to move or leave. And then other people at the rally just crowded in front of them and did the libertarian way of bad speech just gets drowned out by better speech. And they were just effectively obscured. But you don't hear any of that. A couple trolls happen to get in the background. And who is amplifying that message? Libertarians. It's like that meme, from Kill Bill, where the one guy shooting the other guy and going, well, why did the Libertarian Party do this? No, you did this. And it's gross. It is frankly gross. If you weren't there, and there were a few people doing this that were there, that if you think that at all was a focus of this rally, what you're choosing to emphasize and shit on the work of so many libertarians, like the work the Maryland Party put into this, the work the Virginia Party had put into this, or, at least some members from Virginia, like Andrew Watkins, shame on you. It's not good faith, but you're helping. You're really, really helping. Unreal. But we're going to continue to do events like this. And those of you who have kept the party useless and toothless, I'm glad you're embarrassed, because you've been embarrassing with your absolute ineffectiveness. And then when people are finally doing something, you just try to find the one screenshot that you could just share all over. No, you're the problem and you're the bad optics. Now, am I happy that that happened? Of course not. Because it was not, no matter how much you're going to lie, a pro-Russia rally. Every speaker was on point with what the goals of the event were. Absolutely. Again, I didn't hear every speaker. I'm sure someone's going to find some soundbite that they didn't like. But here's another point I want to bring out. Not that I expect people to deal fairly with people they don't agree with. Using the term anti-war is somewhat deceptive. Deceptive might not be the right word. It's somewhat like shorthand that doesn't capture the mentality. I'm a pacifist. Out of all y'all libertarians, I'm probably one of the few that are actually anti-war by the definitions that some people are conveniently putting on other people. But let's be clear. The LP's position, if you want to get hyper literal, isn't anti-war. Neither is most libertarians. If the United States got attacked, nearly every single libertarian would say to defend ourselves in war would be justified. That's not strictly anti-war. So that is used as a shorthand when literally no libertarian is anti-war. If you want to be strict about it. Me as a pacifist, I actually am. What you have where people are trying to really smear other people is people who have different opinions on whose fault this all is. Now I know the media narrative, the regime narrative is, oh my God, it's obviously Russia was just, bored one day and decided to go invade another country. And if you think it's as simple as that, you're naive. Now, let me be clear on my position, even though I know the spin doctors will not care. I'm an anarchist. I don't like any of these governments. I don't like any of the war. I'm not on anyone's side. I'm on the side of the people that are getting victimized by this. But if you're not someone who's a pacifist like me, and you're someone who's more into military stuff, like has zero interest for me. I care about the people on the ground. But if you don't think there's a good argument to be made, whether you agree with it or not, I'm asking you to be charitable. That Russia was provoked, you're just not being honest. And a lot of the speakers honestly believe that. And that does not make them pro-war. What that makes them is, I'm looking at the dispute and I'm trying to suss out how this happened. And if you think it's as clean cut as just Russia bad, I'm sorry. You're just super simplistic and not being charitable. Now, do I necessarily agree with these people who think that this was just a simple case of provocation? No, I don't. But do I think there was provocation? Yes, by us, by the United States. Because this isn't really a war between Russia and Ukraine. What this is a war between Russia and the United States, with us shamefully using Ukraine for our proxy. It's just another way our government has bypassed the constitutional requirement for Congress to declare war. Because if you don't think we're at war, you're insane. But to paint people who think there was definite provocation as being pro-war is like painting people who think if the United States got invaded that we have a right to defend ourselves as pro-war. And that's just super, super vacuous. If you believe that one side was provoked and that they are in some sense defending themselves, that's not pro-war. Now, you don't have to agree with people that think that. Obviously, you're not calling the people who think Ukraine has a right to defend itself, which again is a perfectly legitimate view. You're not calling them pro-war. So why are you calling people who just take the other side? You might think they're wrong, but from their presuppositions, which is how you should fairly judge other people's views, they're not pro-war. I think both of them are wrong. Again, the provoker in this thing, I think, is our own government. But nearly every libertarian thinks that defending against aggression does not make you pro-war. So the uncharitable takes, I've often said that the feds don't need to infiltrate the LP. I think they sit in their little Fedi meetings and go, the libertarians are doing a good job of it themselves. We don't need to go fuck with them. You have people who want the worst and think the worst in this party. I don't know why. I'm not even saying that it's even super conscious, but God, some of you people are just miserable little shits. Seriously, learn to try to see other people's perspectives and judge them fairly. Because out of all of y'all, most of y'all are pro-war. I'm a pacifist. I'm one of the true anti-war people, if you want to go there, and I'm going there. But the conversations we had with the left was fantastic. And this is who is going to be our allies as we march closer and closer to nuclear war. It's going to be the left. Funny though, you guys don't like it that we're proving you wrong, that we're not marching with the right. We're marching with the left. But it's the wrong left. It reminds me so much. The LNC needs to do something. Oh, not that. I'm no longer worried about pleasing people like that. As far as I'm concerned, people intentionally or unintentionally just sabotaging every single thing is shoe fly. Absolutely shoe fly. Because the thing is, even when I thought the past LNC was awful, I looked for things to compliment. That video that they put out 2 years too late on whatchamacallit, the lockdowns that National put out, that completely, at the time it came out, I was kind of like, okay. But you know what? I'm like, I'm glad you guys put something out. It wasn't till it was off the radar did I voice any kind of criticism. Because they did something. I wanted them to do something, and they did something. Oh, I haven't seen any hit pieces that said there was no. Come on. If you see the pictures, I find it funny. People were upset about the 3 Russian flags and not the like 25 communist flags. No, there was a huge left-wing presence there. Now, there was a significant libertarian presence there. If I had to guess, 70-30, 70% leftist, 30% either the very few right-wing anti-war people and libertarians. And the stuff that was coming out of the leftists on stage on how we have to do these coalitions, like, made more sense than most libertarians. Because we have to. Do you think a party that gets less than 1% of the national vote, that we can take this on ourselves? You don't think we're going to have to pair up with people? We're going to. And on this issue, we agree. And with rare exception, and I can't even say this person was an exception. So I'm going to say with no exception, everyone there was congenial, and friendly. Nathan, I didn't hear anyone drumming up drama on stage about Ritter, but again, I wasn't always listening to, I didn't hear every single speaker. I heard a lot of them, but I did go back and hang out with the Maryland tent for a while and walked around. I can't listen to speakers for too long. But everyone I heard, I didn't hear that. So in the one person I'm going to say that wasn't, but she was still friendly. But there was one left-wing gal walking around. It's funny because she was passing out flyers. I took flyers from everybody, and it was opposing the left-right, because of course she considers us the right, coalition. So it was like the haters from the left. So I wanted to take that flyer and scribble down the Twitter handles of the libertarian haters and hand it to her and go, there's your friends. Go be miserable with them. But I couldn't find her. I got the flyer and I didn't read it till after she walked away, and she was perfectly polite and actually quite articulate. But I couldn't find her afterwards because I wanted to go talk with her. I saw her talking at some point with some guy with like a Ron Paul t-shirt on. But she wasn't nasty or anything like that. The flyer was, but she was perfectly polite. But what I find truly sad is the libertarians who are upset that there wasn't violence that broke out, that no one got arrested. If all they have is that one screenshot of 3 people with a Russian flag in the background, that's really pathetic. If that's what you're harping on, you're a sad sack. You truly are. And what's weird about those 3 people, because I went back to go check them out, one of them, the other 2, it wouldn't surprise me if they were feds. It really wouldn't. But one of them was like a legitimate Russian, like he was speaking Russian. Now, how do you know what his motivations there were for? Do you think the motivation had to be like, oh, pro, go, start wars? Did it ever enter your head that perhaps this is a person who was just, people love their homeland? That's human. And he was there to support the Russian people? Did that ever occur to you? Now, I don't know if that was the case. He could have been a total Putin puppet. I don't know that, but neither do you. So, me and my sarcastic self, I went on Twitter and I said something to the effect of, I heard that in the background of the speakers, there was a flag that promoted aggression against other countries. People bring American flags. It happens. Because it is so funny that no one had a problem with that. And when I firmly believe, like being proud of your own country at this event, that was a sour note because it's our own country. Like, you can love your countrymen and still be mad at your government, but it's our own country that started this shit. If you think it was all Russia, you haven't been paying attention. Yeah, that's what's funny, Daniel. If we went to a U.S. anti-war match with a U.S. flag, no one can be considered pro-war when we're the most warmongering country in the world. Get your priorities straight, people. If you think your most what you just gotta be all on about is shitting on an anti-war rally because it wasn't perfect in your eyes, you are the problem. So that is really pretty much all I have to say. Like, it was a fantastic event, and I am so glad I was there. It was so inspiring. And this is the kind of shit the LP should be doing. And I hope we continue to do, and we should have been doing in the past. You want to know what the last LNC did? It went to libertarian meetings. It went to Freedom Fest, which Freedom Fest is great. But are we meeting people where they're at there? Or are we just in an echo chamber? Are we making any kind of real protest difference? No, we're not. So, hey, and I see one of the leftist supporters in my chat. Welcome to my chat. I found this coalition wonderful. We don't have to agree on anything else. Because as I said earlier, this is the issue. We can argue about minimum wage. We can argue about Medicare for all. You want to know what? When the nuclear bomb drops, we all die the fucking same. I am so angry at you sabotaging libertarians. I had more in common with the communists and the Marxists out there than some of my fellow libertarians. So welcome, friend. I'm glad we're on the same side on this issue. Shame. Absolute shame on you people. And again, I know there are some libertarians who think we should never be in a coalition with people we disagree with. And you know what? If that's your principled stance, I'm fine with that. Like, one of my friends got like super upset, thought I was talking about them. I wasn't talking about them. I'm talking about the people that are just, again, internal saboteurs. So I'm going to hang out for like another minute to see if there's anyone who has any questions or comments. And other than that, my booty's got to get to bed because I am tired. I've been on a plane for 8 hours of this weekend. And didn't get to march all the way to the White House. I hope you did in chat because I had to get back, start driving to the airport at 5:30. But I walked like halfway there. Did some footage of it. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else like I really wanted to bring up, but I don't think so. It was just a wonderful solidarity event where people were peacefully protesting. But the Twitter shitlords just had to And I hope we do it again. And Angela did a fantastic job representing the party. She opened the day with that it was her goal and her heart to find the anti-war left. And you want to know who showed up? The anti-war left. And I'm glad to see them. And I am proud to march arm in arm with them. And any libertarians butthurt about that, you can kiss my libertarian ass. Because we need each other. Yeah, Nathan, we the same people will say, I'm a cosmopolitan and I want all of this for all people. Yet they can't work with people who disagree with them on other things. That's not much. That's not very cosmopolitan. That's not cosmopolitan at all. Because guess what? Throughout the world, there are going to be people who disagree with us. We are a tiny, tiny autistic minority. I have always thought that the idea that I'm answering Daniel, that the LP should not be taking part in activism like this is ignorant. Absolutely ignorant. Because, they don't know anything about the founding of the party. People really need to read David Nolan's, piece, The Case for a Libertarian Party. And he listed out the goals. And guess where electing people was on that list of goals? It wasn't. It was a PS. Oh, he said, and by the way, we might actually get some libertarians elected. Third party politics is not like major party politics. And the LP was founded as an anti-political party. Now, I ran for office. I obviously believe running candidates is important. I think they're both important because politics is a lagging indicator of social change that has already happened, and we've got to be part of that social change. Absolutely have to be part of that social change. So they are both important. Absolutely both important. And Casimir, some of the speakers might not have been perfect. But you know what? I don't concentrate on the one or two things that might not have been perfect. Because you want to know what? Well, Nathan, you could take issue with that, but it's in our bylaws. So you're taking issue with the bylaws. And as long as people like me are around, we will always be doing stuff like this. Blake, I do think the LP needs to spend more dollars on things like this. Yeah, I know they'd say, oh, well, the party's always been that way. And it's in the bylaws. I mean, people could and I'm like, change the bylaws then. The bylaws put educational activities, things like this, as important as any kind of electoral politics. So the oh yeah, I agree with you, Casimir. I was just saying that some people will focus on a couple speakers they don't like. Excuse me. Rather than the whole event. And Islamic has it absolutely correct. You don't keep people engaged if you don't do things like this. You do not recruit more activists if you do not do things like this. I was sitting on with the Maryland booth for most of the time, and so many people came up and asked for information, and some of those people will get involved. They were just, and they weren't even people who are like on either side. Like when I mean either side, they weren't like on the left, they weren't on the right. They were just people who are concerned about their kids and their future and the fact that we're heading to nuclear war. And they were like, oh man, like there's political parties that like, because they're just used to the Democrats and the Republicans. They're like, there's actually political parties that have a sane view on this sort of thing. So I hope we do more things like this. And from what I understand, there were sister rallies all over the country. And we need to absolutely do more. Oh, we're saying that, and Angela did a good job. People who are upset that she didn't turn around and start screaming at the people with the Russian flags. Was she supposed to be screaming at people with the communist flags? Do you think when there's a huge crowd that someone on the stage turning around and screaming at people is a wise move? You don't think that could provoke some violence or fights or anything like that? No, Angela handled it perfectly. She stayed on message. I don't even think she saw those people in the back. Like the stage, it's so hard to describe, but the stage was huge. And the people who were like right in front of the stage couldn't even see back there. And everyone was so focused facing, the huge phallic symbol of the state in front that they weren't even looking at what was going on behind them. But again, keep sharing that picture. Keep sharing that picture, and you show yourself for who you are. Oh, the haters wanted something violent to happen bad. They are upset that all they got was that picture. They are upset that that's all they got. So they are gonna milk that cow. Despite the fact, like, they were back there for crap, how long? 10 minutes maybe before they got completely overwhelmed. And then at the end of the day, when people were more marching or dispersing to go to the bathroom, hang out and chat, then that one guy kind of got an unobstructed view again for a while. Yeah, that was a public sidewalk. And from what I understand, security did go over there and ask them to leave, but there was nothing that could have been done. That was the public sidewalk. It's like where the circle was, where anyone can be walking. There were joggers, there were all kinds of things. So there was very little that can be done except for getting our people. And it wasn't just our people. It was also people from the anti-war left that just squeezed in front of them and blotted them out. So there wasn't really anything like definitive that could have been done. But my optics, yeah, when you go out in the wild, people are going to do things that you don't like. And when people are like, I can't believe the LP didn't control that. Oh, we're all about that now, are we? We're all about that. Like you needed to control people's First Amendment speech. Very libertarian of you. Not good faith. Not good faith. And my post today, what an interesting way to draw in the people that just needed to be blocked. Because I don't need psychic vampires in my life. I got work to do. And if you aren't here to do work, you're just here to be a critic. Not interested. Bye, Felicia. Okay, again, I kept saying I was going to give it a minute. I am going to. Blake, why would I block you? Why would I block you? You're a sweetheart. No, the ones I'm talking about, you've seen them on my timeline. They're not following me. I have a public profile, so they just show up. And I go and look at their page. And generally, if there's someone who's being a little bit critical, but you can tell that they are somebody who does a lot of work. I go look at their page and I'm like, you want to know what? They're a decent activist. We have a little bit of a different opinion on this. I don't block those people. But I go over to their page and all they're doing is crapping on people and they've got like 40 followers, I'm not giving those people the time of day. I'm really not, because what they're doing is using somebody who's got a larger follower base. Not that I have a giant one. For Twitter, I've got a tiny follower base. But compared to somebody who's got like 40 followers, so they glom onto my page because I have like, what? I don't know what I'm at now, 13,000 and something. They want their little tiny voice to be amplified and they're riding on my ass. Nope. Block, block. Earn your own audience, asshole. You're not going to use my audience. But again, if I look at someone's page and I'm like, they got a good follower base and we don't agree on this issue, but I read the rest of their posts and I'm like, you know what? They're doing something. But I'll take criticism from people like that. I'll take criticism from people who are actually doing something rather than shitting on other people all the time. And, they've built up a follower base. I don't, there's a few of them I block because all they're doing is shitting on people. But generally, I'm like, cool, okay. But these asses who are such miserable little twats that they got like 40 followers and they don't do shit. No, I don't got time for that. Okay, well, I'm giving it just a few more minutes. Let you all chat. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing a show tomorrow. I got to do some LNC minutes. I'm really behind. And my haters, if I'm one day late, I haven't been, because there was a point, was it last term or the term before, where I'd been late with some sets of LNC minutes, and boy, did people jump on my ass. You want to know why I was late? My brother died, and then my dog died. Yeah, I think it's okay to be a little late. Like if family members, and I know people will mock people who get truly, truly upset about losing a pet, but I'm a dog person, and that was the best fucking dog I ever had. Like, I'm still upset about losing that dog. So I haven't been late since, because I ain't giving these people an excuse. So tomorrow, I need to work on minutes. So yeah, I'm just going to give it a couple minutes. Boy, am I tired. Well, it doesn't really look like anyone's got questions. I really appreciated the interaction. I drank that soda way too fast. Yeah, Daniel, let's talk about that. First, do you want to talk about optics? And do you want to talk about timing? Do you think that it was perhaps bad timing and bad optics when Susan knew everyone was getting pumped up for an anti-war rally, and she decides that morning to just go to all of these Libertarian Party groups and just take a big dump in the middle of it to be Debbie Downer as people are getting psyched up to go to a rally? Do you think that was accidental? But let's talk about the thing she's making a big deal about. Let me tell you how that came about. Let me tell you, listen, she is not a good faith actor. Hold on, I want to pull up something. Because the passive aggressive shit that woman pulls is unfucking real. Give me 1 second. So she sends an email to the LNC, and here's what the email says. I created, and so the title of the email is LNC Fresh Air. And she writes us, I created an anonymous comment box and I would like some feedback from you. And she gives the link. If you're an LNC member and are frustrated, like she assumes we're like her, and are frustrated by the lack of open communication with membership, please feel free to leave an anonymous comment here. This group is only being shared with LNC members. Please do not share information that should be truly kept confidential. I'm providing this service because she's so selfless. For those of you who would like to see the membership better informed, but would not like to be retaliated against by your fellow LNC members. What a piece of shit. Retaliation? You fucking retaliated against somebody that was keeping party members informed, Susan. What a hypocrite and what projection. And she didn't get the response she wanted. So that's when she, a week or so later, is now going on social media starting shit. So that's where that email from Miguel came from. Miguel responded to Susan in good faith and said, I'm not going to be using your anonymous chat box where you're here trying to sow division amongst LNC members. And you, of all people, cannot talk about retaliation. My God. So he responded to her in good faith. And he gave his opinion on transparency. Now, let me be clear. I don't agree with his opinion on transparency. On every LNC, everybody has different views on transparency. But what she did is she took his email as somehow expressing the policy of the LNC, when it was just his personal opinion, which he has every right to have. And she took that as some kind of admission that there were secret discussions. Now, what Miguel said was, if there were secret discussions, he personally would not have a problem with that. And she took that as some kind of admission that there were. Let me tell you, there's not a secret list. Do you want to know when there was a secret list? When Susan was on the LNC. And guess who was speaking out against that secret list? I was. And everyone rode my ass about that. She's the one who had a secret list. The fact that she's convinced that there's this secret conspiracy not to talk to membership is projection on her part, because that's what that LNC did. Her problem is she thinks the lack of drama on the LNC list is us not keeping membership informed. No, it's just us not fighting with each other. How is membership not informed? Membership was informed that we were sponsoring the Rage Against the War rally, which she thinks is lack of information, is just agreement amongst the LNC members. There wasn't extensive discussion on it because, one, we trust Angela. Two, Angela pitched the idea. She gave us information and we were like, cool. And that was done in an open meeting. But she thinks because we're not bickering about it, that is membership not being informed. No, our discussion on it, where we approved it, that's all we've really said about it. Now, I want to be perfectly clear. There are discussions that have to be confidential, and we have had those discussions. They involve legal strategy. They involve discussion of staff, staff review. And this is the one that can get very subjective. Political strategy that requires confidentiality. But I can promise each and every one of you that if I ever thought that those discussions ever strayed past that confine, I wouldn't put up with it. I wouldn't put up with it. And it hasn't happened. And she wants to have her fever dreams that somehow Angela is keeping us all in fear. That's projection on her part. And you want to know, and I didn't even answer her little shit stirring email to the LNC, but that woman cannot keep her mouth from forming my name. You didn't do enough to me last term, Susan, that you just got to continue to go after me. I want nothing to do with you. Stop talking about me. And people can go, you're talking about her now. I'm talking about her now because she keeps starting shit. She don't start no shit. I don't start no shit. I would be happy if I never had to say her name again in my life. But in something that I had absolutely nothing to do with, she drags me into it. And you want to know what she dared to say? Well, Harlos must not be saying anything about these secret discussions because she's scared she's going to get a second removal. Are you admitting, Susan, you removed me for something illegitimate? Because it would be illegitimate to remove me of complaining about secret discussions. I think you just admitted something. But no, I'm not scared, Susan. You should know me better. I wasn't scared of you fuckers that removed me. And I knew it would happen. And I did it anyway. I'm not scared. This LNC isn't like you people. And you think they're like you. So that's what you project onto us. You project onto us that if I ever spoke up, that they would remove me because that's what you did. You voted to remove a political critic. You're the scumbag that did that, not me and not them. Projection. She's a terrible person. There are good faith critics, and I believe they are good people. But there are some people who aren't. So that's exactly what happened, Daniel. So she doesn't tell everybody that she started this. I know you all are scared of retaliation, trolling email to the LNC. And when she did not get what she wanted, she got frustrated and is now trying to desperately seek attention out in public. And Miguel he was kind to her and he responded to her. He's not even her regional rep. She's complaining about somebody who's not even her regional rep and totally misrepresenting. If she just wanted to criticize his opinion, fine. I don't agree with his opinion either. I believe that everyone needs to see the sausage being made. But sometimes there isn't a big process to making the sausage. And a moment's thought of anyone who wasn't acting in bad faith would know this. Whether you think this was a good thing or not, the convention elected a very homogenous LNC. People who were on the same page ideologically. Are you surprised that people who all already agreed are very agreeable to each other and don't argue? Are you surprised that an LNC that was elected, that all supported the chair that was elected, doesn't argue with the chair? Like, that's just a no-brainer. Now, whether you think it's healthy to elect a homogenous LNC, that's a different argument. But the fact is, that's what happened. And to expect us to like be freaking out. And then when Susan like paints herself and, last term, I was always encouraging civil discourse. Listen, I'm not going to out any LNC members here from last term, because if they want to say this to her, they can. But Susan, most other people on the LNC thought you were toxic as fuck. You might not have known that, but where you thought you were the queen of diplomacy and courtesy, I don't think you know how you were viewed by your colleagues. And you could be mad at me for rubbing in that you lost, but there's a reason you lost. And it isn't just because of the Mises Caucus. You'd have lost anyway. And you want to know what? Everybody loses. You run enough time, everyone loses. But you were one term. Like when you lose after one term, and I know you want to blame it on the Mises Caucus, you weren't doing a good job. I saw the way you wrote to the people in your region. Rather than listening to them and like saying, well, I'm going to vote the will of my region because the will of your fucking region wasn't to remove me, you were like, well, you got to convince me. No, that's not the way regional representing works, Susan. That's not the way it works. They have no duty to convince you. You had a duty to represent them. And that's why you're not Region 5 anymore. Hard truths. But anyway, I don't want to talk about her no more. And I wouldn't have been if her mouth didn't set itself to form my name this morning when I wasn't even involved in any of that. But she cannot leave me alone. I want nothing to do with you. We broke up. Get the net. And it's just particularly sociopathic when you knew you were trying to ruin my life and you're still going after me. Get help, because it isn't right. Don't mention me. I won't mention you. So that's the story behind that toxic post that she made. And I'm sure some people will, some people will buy into it. But what I didn't like about it, because again, I don't agree with what Miguel said in his email, but he's entitled to his opinion. And he said it to her politely. But now she's trying to get people to write the LNC and dogpile him. He's not even her representative. I can see her getting a bit upset if it was her representative, but it wasn't. It's just not right. Absolute saboteurs. And if she don't like me talking about her on a stream, stop talking about me. Because I didn't ask for you to be coming after me. I blocked you. I want nothing to do with you. Leave me the hell alone. She's in Region 5. She's from North Carolina. So, Just taking a look through the comments to make sure I didn't miss anything. Oh, you asked me if she sent the amended list. No. But see, I'm going to actually be fair. She did say that the word of the Arizona state chair was good enough for her, and she emailed and asked me to change it, and that's all I needed. She was credentials committee chair. I needed her to ask me to change it, so that will be done at the March meeting. I'll make that motion to amend that the appendix to the minutes next LNC meeting. But she did take care of that, Nathan. So I wanted to give credit where credit was due. Yeah, Bill, I saw her emails, and Susan was toxic as hell on the LNC list. Do you think I ever would have? Well, she was a regional, so let's just pretend she wasn't, like she was at large or something. Do you think I ever would have tried to remove her? No. No. You respect the will of the delegates. Like I said, that this term, the convention elected a homogenous LNC. Last term, they didn't. And do you think I was any different than when I was elected? No. No. My nomination speech said exactly like there's been corruption, because there was corruption the term before that, and I will call that shit out. I promise each and every single one of you. So here's the fact. Susan voted to remove me for keeping my campaign promises to the delegates because she thought she had the power. She felt fucking powerful. And she signed off on charges that said words were violence. All of them who voted yes, they could have moved to divide that motion and strike that, and they didn't. Every single one of them voted yes, that words were violence. And if you think that mere criticism is violence, I don't think you understand libertarianism. And if you think that someone keeping their campaign promises and you just found it inconvenient, now, what do you? There's Wayne bringing in Skippy. Hey, Skippy, come here. Come here. I got a blind little dachshund. He can't see where he's going. You want to know what? Delegates have the right to vote someone on the LNC that you don't like. But Susan couldn't have that. Every single one of those people that should never be in a leadership position again unless they radically change. I always leave the door open for that. People do change. But unless they do, none of them should ever be given power over people again because they have shown what they would do. Okay, I don't think there's any other chats that I missed. And never mind that they couldn't be bothered to give me due process. Let's pretend that I was this horrible person. And let's pretend that they were right to do what they did. If they were so sure they were right, why didn't they give me the due process that is clearly laid out in Roberts. Now, I know some of them don't think they were required to, but wouldn't libertarians go above and beyond when when it comes down to removing people? Like, even if you thought, but our bylaws do require it, by the way. But I understand people of good faith disagree on that. Even if the convention, though, didn't, because remember, the point of order that was raised about my removal wasn't that my removal was wrong on the facts. My suspension was voided due to lack of due process. That is utterly embarrassing. If they were so sure they were right, why didn't they just give me a fair process rather than the kangaroo court that they did? That says a lot. That says an absolute lot. So even anyone who thinks she was right or any of those people were right, it ain't right for libertarians to deny due process. They could have given it to me, but they didn't want to. And there's someone whose name I'm not going to mention because, again, I don't like talking about these people. They start coming after me on social media. I'll mention names like I just did. But another one of them whose name I'm not going to mention because they haven't been coming after me. When they were told by Ken Molman, you guys don't want to do this. You do realize she's just going to be reelected next convention. Do you want to know what kind of respect this other LNC member had for the delegates? You want to know what their response was? I don't care. Never near another leadership position again. None of them. Again, unless they change radically, because it can happen. But I've seen no evidence that any of them have changed. You want to know what it would take for me to believe they changed? For them to publicly admit that what they did was wrong, and not just in general, like name specifically what you did that was wrong, and say, you know what, that, unequivocally. Then prove it through your actions for like the next year. Then I'd be like, okay, people change. But none of them have done that. None of them. And until then, my position is never near another leadership position again. Now, I'm sure some state party, whatever, is going to elect them somewhere. Okay, that's the state party's business. They can do what they want. But they'll never get my support. Not until they change. I don't know if any of the main channels picked it up. I asked Wayne, but it was during the day. I expect Tucker Carlson will, because he covered it beforehand. There were news outlets there. I didn't see C-SPAN there. So, well, Casimir, I always leave the door open for change. But it hasn't happened yet. And I've seen no sign it's going to happen in the future. But unless they start coming after me like publicly like she did when I wasn't even involved with that whole, email with Miguel, I'm content never to mention him again. because I really don't want to. You've noticed I've been pretty vague. Like when I say things, I'm like the past LNC. Like I don't want to be mentioned them. But that woman continuing to just like go after me personally when I'm not even involved in the crap is super sociopathic. It's like she is ass mad I didn't stay dead. And people who are that ruthless and vicious about trying to destroy somebody, that's sociopathic shit. All right, guys, I'm going to hop off and get some sleep. I do truly, truly appreciate you all. And, maybe I'll live stream tomorrow. Maybe I'll touch upon this some more. But, like, that's my opinion on everything. And do I seem scared? Do I seem scared to say my opinion? Anyone who knows me knows I'm not muzzled. The reason I'm not on the list causing shit is because they're not corrupt. As I said to everyone, don't be corrupt and you've got nothing to worry about for me, because all I ever wanted was to just do my minutes and do my secretary shit in peace. And I'm able to do that this term. And that's all I want to do. So these people who were upset at me for causing drama on the list last term, now they're upset at me for not causing drama on the LNC list. No integrity. None. And nobody muzzles me. Do you think I went through everything I did in 2021? Do you think I went through all of that? Where they should have put it in executive session, but they dragged my name through the mud like that? Do you think I went through all of that to be muzzled? No. I just happen to like this LNC. And Angela is a fucking fantastic chair. And sorry, not sorry if you don't like that. And I've got her back 100%. And even if there's a decision she makes that maybe I don't 100% agree with, I know she thinks it's the right thing to do. And guess what? If you're not corrupt and you are deciding what you think is best for the party, I wasn't elected to make those decisions. She was. And as long as I know she's acting in good faith, I have her back. And I don't give a shit if Hogarth likes it or not. Peace out.